Good morning, equity agents. We should be live. Good morning, Todd and Stacy.
Morning, Paul.
Hey, good morning, Paul.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Happy sales meeting day.
Yeah, it's so hard to believe we're halfway through the year almost.
I was just going to say,
well,
June
almost.
already.
Yeah. I mean, after the June.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty wild. This year has gone by fast. We've got another great meeting ahead of us. Lots of great content to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm just looking. I'm over here. If I'm looking away, that's because I'm looking over here at the Facebook and just seeing who's coming in. And
yeah, we'll give some
I'll keep an eye on the questions, and Amir and Brianna should come on a little bit, but take it away, Paul.
That's perfect, guys. Well, yeah. Can I get the green light that we are live? Are we all good?
We are live.
All right. Well, stop me when you want to do some shout outs. Otherwise, we're going to dive right in. Good morning. Happy June 8th, sales meeting day. And as always, we're going to start with a motivational quote, which this is a great one. So if you'll read along with me, marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Choose your hard. Obesity is hard. And being fit is hard. Choose your hard. Being in debt is hard. Being financially disciplined is hard. Choose your hard. Communication is hard, and not communicating is hard. Choose your hard. Life will never be easy. It will always be hard, but we can choose our hard. Pick wisely. So that is just a good quote that I think we can take so much away from, but especially in this business, the difficult things that we might not want to do, but look at the alternative. What if you don't do those difficult things? Where will that lead you? So choose your hard. You guys
like
fired up? You ready to rock and roll?
I like
yes,
it.
I'm ready to tackle hard things. Let's do it.
Well, it's a good one. And moving on, we've got a lot of great agents to welcome. And I figured I'd take a few minutes just to tell you a little bit about these agents that we're hiring each month. That way you feel like you're meeting these people. And of course, you can reach out to these agents. But your referrals mean so much to us. And we're hiring a lot of interesting, great professional people. So welcome aboard, Corey Strickler. He's a retired Air Force, just starting out in the business. Great guy, hitting the ground running. Colin Kennedy, he's an electrician who works for several builders around town. So he knows how to wire homes and decided he wants to sell homes now. So Colin Kennedy, another great guy. Jordan Bailey, a very smart person working for IBM currently, but is trying to get out of the corporate world and, make a career in real estate. So welcome, Jordan. Carmen Klein, another great agent who was licensed in Arizona, and her husband is actually a probate attorney. So she is really knowledgeable about the probate process. So keep that in mind. And then you might recognize this face, Drew Burton. Drew Burton was with us, took a break, tried to pursue some other things, and now he's back at Equity. And we're so happy to have him back. Welcome back, Drew. Drew was a gymnast previously. And
that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, you guys remember Drew? Great guy.
Yeah. Very fit individual.
Yeah.
Yes. And yep, I don't know if he's doing gymnastics quite as much, but he's working with investors and doing all kinds of fun things in the business. And we're happy to have him back. And then we've got Tracy Owens, another interesting person. She actually does permitting for new construction for a local builder here in Colorado. And she's adding to her toolkit by obtaining her license. So new to the industry, but still knows a bit about this industry. And last but certainly not least, Loretta Mayer. Loretta, she's closed, I think, about 12 transactions, 9 to 12 transactions in her first 2 years. And she's also licensed in Kansas. So another agent who hit the ground running pretty quickly and just great people. So welcome aboard, everybody.
Yeah, welcome. Awesome.
And if you're online, which I hope you are, I know Corey's attending an RE Colorado class, introduce yourself in the comments.
Yeah, give us a hello.
And to quickly highlight the referrals. So these agents listed here, they've referred agents to Equity. So a shout out to Brianna Sherman, who referred Loretta Mayer. Kristen Wiley referred Paige Joe, who's finishing up her exams right now. Marshall Marquardt referred Jose Sosa. And last but not least, Nancy Hendricks referred her daughter, Ashley Seymour, who will eventually be joining us here soon. And I also wanted to quickly take a few seconds to mention profit share. I mean, I still get these questions often, and maybe we're not doing a good enough job of explaining profit share, but I answered the question yesterday, is there an incentive for referring agents to equity? And if you guys didn't know, yes, we pay profit share. So you refer an agent to equity and they join, you would get $100 for every transaction that agent closes for as long as you're both with the company. So one of those things that we are constantly talking about, but maybe you missed one of the messages. So I figured I'd run through that again. And I'll take a pause. How are we doing? Are there shout outs we want to make before we welcome Amir into the meeting?
Yeah, let's do it. So good morning, Kevin Tiffin. Good morning, Carrie Schmidt. Good morning, Julie Felsen. Let's see, we've got Karen Beisner, Crystal Adams, Dominique. We've got Katie Markman. We've got Caitlin. Good morning, Todd. You're watching.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Kathy Harder and Sandra and Beth and Shelly. So yeah, we've got a good amount of people. Thanks so much for dropping us the hello in the comment section.
And I'm going to quickly pull in our next guests. You know them, our favorite lenders, Amir, Razi, and Brianna Collette with Own Home Loans. You guys are muted, just so you guys know. Good morning. How are you guys today?
Good. Good morning.
Good.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. We just went through a quick little intro and welcomed and did some shout outs, and we've pulled up your slide here. I think you guys are going to talk about ARM loans, risk versus reward today.
Yeah.
Is that right?
We are, and we do have some slides. I don't know if we can share those, but actually it looks like I have sharing capability here, or not quite yet, but
I'll stop my screen share, and now you should be good to go, Amir.
All right, perfect. So let's get this up here. And all right. How am I looking, Paul?
You're looking good. There you go. Now you're full screen.
All right, perfect. So I'm Amir Razi, president of Own Home Loans, your in-house lender for Equity Colorado. And Brianna is joining me today to talk to you guys about adjustable rate mortgages. With the quick rise at the beginning of the year in interest rates, we've had a lot of agents reach out to us asking about adjustable rate mortgages. So we thought we'd give a little primer because there's just been a lot of questions and interest in adjustables. So we're going to talk about that today. And adjustable rate mortgages, I think a lot of people have a good idea of what an adjustable rate is, but when it gets down into the details of how they actually work, how the adjustments and the caps work, sometimes there's not a lot of understanding. So we're going to talk about that. And I think a couple things that I think are important for agents to know, and that hopefully will help you in your business from a real estate point of view. So one of those pieces that I think is most fundamental to adjustable rate knowing about adjustable rate mortgages is that adjustable rate mortgages fluctuate with the market, but not always in sync with fixed rate mortgages. So the slide you're looking at right now is Freddie Mac's primary mortgage market survey. We post data from this survey every week because it really is kind of the pulse. It's kind of the pulse of interest rates and what's happening in the United States. These are not interest rates from Own Home Loans or any particular lender. These are interest rates that represent the average rates across the United States for 30-year fixed rate mortgages, 15-year fixed rate mortgages, and a 5/1 ARM. And aside from the increase that you can see here, the big thing that I really want to point out that I think is important to understand is if you look at the most recent data on this chart, you will see right now, on average, there's about a 1% difference between an adjustable rate mortgage and a fixed rate mortgage. Now, there are some caveats there worth mentioning, which is that a 30-year fixed mortgage really just kind of comes in one flavor. But there are a lot of different types of adjustable rate mortgages and adjustable rate loans. This chart here really only represents one of them, which is a 5-1 ARM. And we're going to talk about what a 5-1 ARM means in just a little bit. But, you know, right now, a 1% spread is a pretty big difference between a fixed rate and an adjustable rate mortgage. If you look back to last summer between June and August, the difference, roughly speaking, between an adjustable rate and a fixed rate mortgage was closer to about 0.25% on the interest rate. So not nearly as big. And that's important because it's not always worth the risk to save a 0.25 point necessarily, you know, but a full percentage point, that's a lot more bang for the buck. So Brianna is going to talk a little bit about how that payment difference works. And we're going to use this data to provide that example.
Amir, before Brianna jumps in on that, just, I mean, so yeah, that 0.25 point, that was not exciting. So a whole 1% is. Back in 2006, 7, 8, when adjustables were so prevalent, what were we looking at back then? What was the spread back then? Do you remember?
I could look it up, but it would mess up the presentation. I don't know off the top of my head. I was in the mortgage business back then, and we were doing a lot of adjustable rate mortgages. If I had to guess, I would say it was probably at least a percentage, if not more. Adjustable rate mortgages back in 2006 were quite a bit different. Not quite a bit. There's a lot of similarities, but there were a lot of differences back then. One of the biggest ones is that a lot of those adjustable rate mortgages were based on the LIBOR index. And we're going to talk about indexes here, but the LIBOR has kind of gone away because it's been manipulated, and there's different indices that are used now for adjustable rates. But there were a lot of prepayment penalties back then as well. And lenders liked to put a prepayment penalty with the adjustable rate to really ensure that they get a good return on that note or that coupon. And you don't see prepayment penalties really ever at all. I mean, there are some situations, some lenders that have prepayment penalties, but they're typically not for conventional conforming or government products. So I cannot answer that off the top of my head. Unfortunately, it's too long ago, but I can look it up, and maybe I'll type a comment after we get off so I don't mess up my slides. But,
No worries.
Good question.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, with today's interest rates being higher and so much higher than they were just at the beginning of this year in such a short amount of time, we are seeing adjustable rate mortgages really increase in popularity. And the reason is because of that lower interest rate, which means you're going to see a lower monthly payment. So we've got a little example here for you guys. We're looking at a 30-year fixed rate mortgage and comparing that to a 5-1 adjustable rate mortgage. So based on a little example here with a loan amount of $400,000, you're going to see an interest rate of 5.09% on that 30-year fixed. And that's putting your monthly payment for principal and interest at $2,169. But if you look below at that 5-1 adjustable rate mortgage with that lower interest rate of 4.04%, significant difference in that monthly P&I payment, $1,919, which is about a $250 per month savings. So that's why these ARM loans are so attractive, but they are definitely not without risk. So Amir, you want to tell us what what folks need to be on the lookout for with these?
Absolutely. And just to be clear, these are not own home loans interest rates. These are just straight off of Freddie Mac's primary mortgage market survey. So just an average of US interest rates that we use for this example. But yeah, if you Google the risk of adjustable rate mortgages, you may find a list of different things, but really there's one primary fundamental risk to an adjustable rate mortgage, which is that your payment can change because your interest rate can change. Whatever that list is of risks, it all boils down to, and they all come from the fundamental idea that your payment can change, and it can change significantly. We're going to talk about initial rate changes and rate caps, but it could change your payment hundreds of dollars from 1 month to the next. Or if you're in a jumbo arm, which actually are priced very low right now, it could be thousands of dollars. So there could be quite a difference and quite a big payment shock. So we're going to talk about who should be taking these loans and who should not. So let's start with who should.
Yeah,
who these are typically a good fit for.
Yep, there's definitely a place for these loans. And really it's for buyers who kind of have some certainty on their timeline. So a buyer maybe who knows that they're going to be selling in just 3 or 5 years. Maybe it's, a starter home and this family knows for sure that they're going to need to move into something larger, and they've got a timeline that they really have a good handle on. They could definitely benefit from that lower monthly payment with that lower interest rate on an ARM loan, locked and fixed for 5 years or 7 years if they know they're going to sell in 4 or 6 years. Or maybe it's a buyer who's a professional that moves around the country a lot, engineers or contractors who are just in a particular city for a certain amount of time and then will be relocated to a different city, maybe a military family that's going to be stationed here for 3 or 4 years and then moving to a different city, and they know when they're going to be selling that home. An ARM loan might be a great fit for them, where they can get into a lower monthly payment without running into that first initial adjustment to that interest rate where it's going to change. They'll be out of the home before that happens. A financially strong buyer, somebody who is maybe in a position to withstand a change to a monthly payment, an increase to a monthly payment, and is willing to, kind of take it as they come, riding those waves either up or down. Or maybe an investor who is in a position where they could easily pay off the mortgage in the event that the interest rates shoot up really high. Those are definitely folks who could benefit from these ARM loans and might want to look at those, but they are certainly not for everybody. Who should stay away from these, Amir?
Yeah, so I will talk about that in just a second, but when you talk to a buyer and they're telling you, yeah, we're going to move in 3 years, and then you start talking a little more and you dive in and you realize they actually don't really know if they're going to move in 3 years, right? That isn't necessarily the buyer that this is going to work for, right? As you start asking follow-up questions, you realize it's a lot of buyers who know they're going to move don't really know they're going to move. When I was in Houston, we had a lot of engineers who would go out to oil rigs, and they had a 2-year contract. And after that contract was up, they knew they had to move because they had a follow-up contract in, let's say, Alabama or Mississippi or wherever. Those people knew with certainty, at least, 99% certainty. There's not always 100%, right? That they were going to move. So that takes you away from an adjustment period, or kind of takes that out of the equation. Now, there's a lot of situations where an ARM loan can cause big problems. This is why having a good lender and a scrupulous loan officer who puts, their clients, in front of themselves, even to their own detriment, right? It's really important to have a good lender that educates their clients on when these should be used. Buyers who are trying to squeeze into a higher priced home, maybe the fixed rate payment is too high, but the adjustable payment can make the loan work. That's not a good situation, right? That's not going to be a happy buyer when that adjustment period kicks in. And it can cause much bigger problems if they can't afford the payment later. First-time home buyers, typically not great candidates for adjustable rate mortgages because they probably don't understand how ARMs work. And even if they get a good understanding, there's so much information coming in to take in when you're buying a home for the first time. Knowing how an adjustable rate mortgage works on top of that can be a little overwhelming. So obviously make sure your lender is educating your clients very well if they decide to do an adjustable rate mortgage. Now, as a side note, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have taken this into account, and they've kind of learned from the history, especially back to when Todd was talking about 06, 07, 08, 09. So it can actually be harder to get approved for an ARM loan if your debt ratio is high and things like that, but you still need to be careful. So let's talk about some of the details here.
All right, so how these work, what really determines that interest rate and how those adjustments are going to move up or down? It's really two things that determine that interest rate. And the first is the index. So Amir talked a little bit about indexes, and those are really the indicators of what's going on in the market. And as the market conditions fluctuate up and down, the index is going to reflect those changes. And most investors have all moved over from the LIBOR index to SOFR, which is the secured overnight financing rate and is considered more accurate. It's mostly based on treasuries. And so that index is going to show you where the market moves are, whether up or down. And whatever that index is reflecting for the current market conditions, when it's time for that adjustment to take place, that's going to set the basis for that interest rate. But then there's a margin that's added to that base index, that base benchmark of interest, and that margin never changes. This piece is fixed, and it's basically the floor. It's the lowest that this interest rate will ever go, and it's really the margin for the investor, that their return on this investment. And so it might be 2%, it might be 2.5%, whatever that margin is, it's going to stay at that minimum amount for the life of the loan. And then the index is added on top of that. So if you look over to the right, you can see where we have that 2% margin and the 4% index for year one. And in year 5, it's changed. That index has actually increased to 7%. That 2% margin hasn't changed, but with those combined, you're now looking at an interest rate of 9%. So those are the two factors that determine what that interest rate is going to be.
Yep. So index plus margin equals your interest rate. Mm-hmm. Now, if you take out an adjustable rate mortgage, most likely, probably about 98% of the time, unless you're working with some super tiny bank, you're going to have caps on how much your rate can adjust. And this goes back to some of the nomenclature that we saw earlier on some of those slides. So if you look at my heading here, you'll see a 5-1, a 5-6, a 10-1. And if you look online and you're pulling up an adjustable rate mortgage, you'll see these numbers. Well, what do they mean? Well, the first number here, and I'm going to use the example of the 5-1. The 5 represents the number of years that the interest rate is fixed initially. Most ARMs today are called hybrid ARMs. And the reason they're called hybrid ARMs is because they are a hybrid of a fixed rate and an adjustable rate. And almost always you will have a certain period of time where you will have the rate fixed. It could be 3 years, it could be 5, it could be 7, it could be 10 years. But that first number is the number of years that it's fixed. The second number, so in the 5-1 example, the number 1 indicates the periodic adjustment. So a periodic adjustment, the one represents basically 1 year. Now it gets a little tricky. A 5/6 arm, for example, doesn't actually mean it's fixed for 5 years and then adjusts every 6 years after that. That actually is 6 months. So if you ever see a 6, most likely it means that the periodic adjustment happens every 6 months. So in addition to how often it can adjust, there is a limit to how much it can adjust. And there's typically 3 limits set in place. There's the initial adjustment. So after 5 years, how much can the rate adjust? Well, it could be 2%, it could be 5%. The higher the number for that initial adjustment, typically the lower the rate will be initially, but the higher the risk because the rate can jump up quite a bit at the beginning. After that initial adjustment period, you have the periodic adjustments. So if it can adjust every year, there's a limit to how much it can adjust every year. Typically, that's around 1% for most loan products. And then there is a lifetime cap, the amount that the interest rate can adjust over the life of the loan. Sometimes that's 5%, sometimes it's 8%. There are ARM products that don't have a cap. Typically, those are with interest only or payment option ARMs. So we're not going to dig into those today, but hopefully this gives you kind of a rough idea, a good overview of how ARMs work, who they can be used for, who they shouldn't necessarily be used for. And Brianna and I, being your in-house lender, are always available to answer questions. If you guys have any questions or need help, we would be happy to answer them for you. And if there's any questions now, we'd be happy to tackle those.
Yeah, we'll look at our Facebook posts here. That was a great presentation, and I'm like, whoa, this is kind of base. No, we haven't had adjustable rate loans for years just because of what you showed. I mean, for a quarter point, it just hasn't made sense because rates have been so low for so long. And we have so many agents that are now with us that have never seen interest rates above, well, right now, these are the highest rates that they have ever seen, other than myself, Greg, Tiffin, and a few of us that have been here forever. But yeah, so many people are like, oh my gosh, what is this 5% and what's an adjustable? So well done. This is great. I think Paul will probably snippet this and actually only add that one part onto Facebook. So if somebody just wants to learn about what an adjustable rate mortgages are, we'll do that. How are we doing? Any questions there?
Yeah. So far, I don't see any questions. If you guys have any questions for Amir and Brianna while we're wrapping up their segment, type them in the comment section below. I'll read them out loud and they can answer them live. So we'll give just a couple of seconds to see if any questions pop up. But I think you guys were so thorough. Yeah. You probably hit on everything.
Yeah. Well done. It's good seeing you guys.
Yeah.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. We always appreciate putting that together and taking the time to spend your morning with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right. Great explanations are the comments we're getting. So
cool.
Thumbs up. I think you guys nailed it.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. I'm going to take back screen share. All right. And there's their Amir and Brianna's contact information for anybody that needs it. You can take a quick screenshot. And we're going to move it right along. We've got a full schedule here. The next piece that we're going to talk about today, a fun one that keeps coming up often. You're probably tired of us talking about clear cooperation policy, NAR and RE Colorado's clear cooperation policy. But issues keep arising, things keep happening, and most importantly, fines are being assessed for violations of clear cooperation. So we want the basics of this clear cooperation policy to be automatic for you. And so what we've done, we've selected the 3 most commonly asked questions about clear cooperation. And those 3 items happen to be the most common violations of what we're seeing. So those of you who are online, you probably have heard us talk about this. So bear with us as we review. But for anybody who hasn't read about clear cooperation, stay tuned. I'll also quickly note there is a link to the brand new Clear Cooperation Quick Start Guide, and I would highly recommend that you take a look at those frequently asked questions to avoid a $1,500 fine that might be assessed to your RE Colorado account. So the most common violations, coming soon status. So when you put a listing in the coming soon status, the timing of when you add a new listing to the MLS, and then advertising a listing to the public. So we're gonna hash it out. So this is automatic. In the coming soon status, the most common violation, there are absolutely no showings while your listing is in the coming soon status. And here is the verbiage straight from the Quick Start Guide. No showings are permitted while a listing is in coming soon status. A listing must be in active status in RE Colorado before showings are held. This includes broker showings, virtual showings, open houses, and virtual open houses. And there is some verbiage when you add your listing into the coming soon status. There's some verbiage where you have to check a box. I agree that since my listing is in coming soon status, I will not have any showings. In a quick example, a nosy neighbor. This was an occurrence with one of our agents. Coming soon sign goes in the yard for sale with a coming soon rider. And a nosy neighbor walks over, hey, I'm really good friends with the seller. Can I just take a look real quick? I just want to see what they have to offer. Maybe this is something we might be interested in purchasing. That agent let that neighbor into the home thinking, no big deal. That's just Johnny neighbor next door. Well, that is a direct violation. Nobody can see the home in person, no showings. And that means of every type. So be extra careful that you're not allowing people into the home when you're in coming soon status. I think another aspect to that, don't be the buyer's agent who puts that uncomfortable question out there. Hey, can my client see your property when you know that it's in the coming soon status? I don't think there's too much of that going on, but I figured it'd be a good angle to look at as buyer's agents. Don't ask. If it's incoming soon, you don't see it. Any additional comments there, Todd and Stacy?
That's just good. We get the, but what?
But what if? No. If it starts with a but.
But could I? No, it's just absolutely no. And yeah.
Yeah, not your best friend who also holds an active real estate license, not your fellow equity agent that you do open houses with. Like, nobody is to access that property when it's in coming soon status.
Yeah, and another good point there as we continue to go through these other two violations, clear cooperation violations are reported by other agents confidentially, in confidence. So you don't want to test it. Yes, maybe this one time I'll let somebody in. No, don't do it, because the wrong person could report you, and they do not mess around with this. You'll be charged $1,500 on your RE Colorado account. So moving right along to the next item, the timing of a listing. And this is just good. We get this question, I'd say two times a week, probably through the hotline. So be aware, timing of a listing. When a listing agreement is signed, so your exclusive right to sell, you've signed it, you have 3 days to enter the listing into RE Colorado as either coming soon or active. And I think the only other piece to address there, you could take a look at when the date, when the listing agreement was actually signed, or when is the listing period starting. So those are the 2 dates we want you guys to look at. And the way this is written, 3 days from when the listing agreement is signed. But there's some gray area, and Todd and Stacy, maybe you can talk on this. If you sign a listing agreement today, but the listing period doesn't start for a week, well, then one could argue that you could enter that listing into RE Colorado upon the listing period start date. Would you agree with that, Todd and Stacy?
I would agree with that. And I think there is a gray area with RE Colorado on this.
Yeah. I mean, when you read the sentence, once a listing agreement has been signed, you have 3 business days from the effective date. So that's always my response on the support line. When does your listing physically start? What is your listing period term? You have 3 days from that to enter it, not the date in the upper right-hand corner, not the date that the seller signed it, not the date that you signed it, the effective date.
And I think that's important because we get the question, well, I have a seller who I really want to lock down. They want to work with me, but they're not ready yet. They need 15 days to get started. And so I think that's a perfect example of, referencing that listing period.
Yeah. And one thing that I have been advising people, if we just want to dot all our I's and cross our T's, and the additional provisions of the listing contract is to write in no marketing shall start on the property until the effective date, just so it corresponds with the language that RE Colorado is also mentioning. So if someone does turn someone in, then we can kind of show, hey, our wording matches this wording and we're following the protocol correctly.
That's perfect. And please note there are links on our slideshow. We're going to send this out, and you can actually follow these links directly to what we're talking about on each slide to get the full overview of each item here. But moving right along to the third item, this is probably the most common violation or warning that we come across. Advertising a listing. And I hope this is automatic. I feel like this is so repetitive that you guys are cringing over on the other side, but maybe not, because it's still coming up. Listings must be entered into RE Colorado within 1 day of marketing the listing to the public. So let that sink in here, and we're going to read the clear cooperation policy. So marketing includes, but is not limited to, distributing flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, brokerage sharing, digital communications such as email blasts or social media, multi-brokerage list. So you can see the idea. Any marketing to the public, that listing must be in RE Colorado within 1 day from when that marketing went out. That's a big one.
Yeah. So if you guys are taking a listing to lock a seller in 15 days prior to the effective term date that you put in the listing agreement, you don't run off to social media and start advertising it as a coming soon. You are in clear violation of this section of clear cooperation.
In the real world example, you put together a really cool video or a really cool flyer and you post that on Facebook, and another agent from another brokerage gets really excited. They have this buyer that needs to move quick. 2 days later, they hop in RE Colorado and can't find your listing. That might really just make that agent super frustrated, and they will take the time to call RE Colorado and report you. So that's our real world life example there. So those are the 3 biggest violations. Clear cooperation. And keep in mind, this is NAR and RE Colorado. This isn't equity. So it's your guys' responsibility to be aware of this stuff. So please, when we send out our recap, take some time to go through the quick start guide on clear cooperation to keep yourselves out of trouble.
And if I can just throw in, this is for your benefit. Because we do have people go, well, why do we have these rules? Why can't I? Why? The whole system of having an MLS, the multiple listing service, for those of you that have forgotten what MLS means, because we just say MLS, multiple listing service, is for us to share information with other brokerage firms. Years and years ago, before the MLS, an office would have a listing and that office would have a listing, and nobody would know that that person had something. And we wouldn't say whether I'd pay. It's like the commercial world. If any of you know about the commercial world, they don't share listings. They don't share commissions. They don't say advertise what they're going to pay. We came up with this MLS system so many years ago where we share and we cooperating broker. Mm-hmm. And these are just our guidelines so that we can all play fairly together, because things got so crazy with the coming soons and people selling things off market.
And low inventory.
And low inventory.
And it made it frustrating when you were working with a buyer trying your hardest to sell them a house, and they find out that there was a property in a neighborhood that they wanted to live in that went under contract. And why didn't you, as their agent advocate, find that house for them? Well, because it was never advertised.
So it's to your benefit. It's to all of our benefits that we follow these rules and guidelines so that we can all play in the same sandbox together and all take care of our clients properly and not feel like somebody is withholding from us. So that's why we have this. it's your club. You belong to the multiple listing service. You belong to the National Association of Realtors. You have all said we want to play fairly. And these are just the rules to make sure that we're all playing fairly.
Very good points.
Then one good comment that came up on Facebook is accepting sight unseen offers. So if you do have a listing and coming soon status, that does not mean that someone can't submit an offer without viewing the property. So it is allowed that buyers can say, I don't need to see the home. I want to submit a sight unseen offer in coming soon status. And you as the listing agent will present that to the seller and have a discussion on the pros and cons of accepting an offer prior to opening it up to the general public. So you can submit offers sight unseen when properties are in coming soon status. So that was a great question on Facebook. And then let's see, Carrie Schmidt, could you possibly go back to the coming soon page and explain how long you can advertise a coming soon to the public?
Absolutely. So RE Colorado allows you to leave a listing in the coming soon status for 7 days. And on the 7th day, or technically the 8th day, the listing will automatically push to the active status. When you enter the listing, you can also choose a date. So maybe you only want to be in the coming soon status for 4 days or 5 days. You can choose that when you enter the listing, and the listing will automatically transfer to the active status upon the 4th day that you've selected.
Perfect.
So does that answer that?
I think so. And I'm going to reread the final sentence in this coming soon, because that no open houses, but I like showings and open houses can take place when the listing's active. So again, no showings, no open houses. You can't have people coming into that during coming soon. Somebody can write an offer on it, sight unseen, but no one in or out of that house other than you.
Active status is the green light. Yep.
That is it.
Crystal clear?
I hope.
Ah.
Again, everybody watching, you guys tune in.
The ones that are doing this, yeah.
But
hopefully we've got somebody else watching this and going, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Good information.
Yeah,
I hope.
RE Colorado is not forgiving with these fines. So
Yeah.
we are seeing them hit, and you guys aren't really able
You have been forewarned.
Yeah, so be careful.
Yeah, and I have one more thing with regard to fines from RE Colorado to quickly squeeze in. We talked about this at our May sales meeting. Another kind of heads up automatic notification. You guys need to know this: status changes. So listing, active listing to pending, pending to sold. Those need to be completed within 3 business days. And that's just another completely separate from clear cooperation. That's to keep the information up to date in the MLS. And we're seeing these constantly. So make sure your status, you're changing your status within 3 business days. Otherwise, it's a $50 fine, a $250 fine, and a $500 fine. And
Paul, I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know the answer to this.
Sure. Uh-oh, hot seat.
So-
My seat's getting hot.
First violation.
Yeah.
Is this first notice? If they don't change it, then it's the second notice. Are we talking about, I took a listing, I didn't change the status quick enough, I paid a $50 fine, I got another listing, I did it again, and now I'm on a second violation. So are these first notices, first violations, and can you
Yeah, great
know
question.
the answer to that? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer about if you have another listing and you get caught not changing the status, that they slap another fee on. But where I can state as a fact, these are automatic charges. So if you go 4 days without changing the status, you're going to be charged $50. They're going to send you an email saying you just got charged $50 because you haven't changed the status. If they check your listing again in a couple of days and they see it's still not changed, then they're going to slap on a $250 fine. That's how I've seen those work.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I kind of like the word first violation / notice.
First notice is, I think more accurate.
Notice almost. Yeah. Because violation is
Yeah, you can keep making the same mistake over and over. It's just going to be tiered.
They're going to tier it.
Yeah, same way.
Yeah.
So you did it again. We're going to slap you with a $50 fine. This could be your fourth, fifth time that you forgot to do it. And then they'll incrementally escalate it if you don't respond.
Yeah, and this is verbiage from RE Colorado. They call it a violation. So that's a good note to make sure when you see violation, you think of it as a notice.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Yeah. A couple other questions. Paul, how about what if a broker open before it goes on the market? No clients.
No.
No one.
Yeah, you can't even
No
hold
one.
a broker open. You can't even show a single broker, let alone a bunch of brokers.
And this is why we cover this, and don't feel ashamed for asking that question because you're not the only one. But right there, you'll see no broker showings, no broker opens, nobody in the house when it's in coming soon status.
Yeah. And I think what really hits home is it says no virtual showings. So you can't even go through with your cell phone and video it and then send that to a client. So yeah, no in-person or video or electronic showings. Yeah.
Yeah. Good questions though.
So yeah, great question. How about I see enter for comp purposes? What is that all about?
So, I mean, the quick overview is that in the event that a transaction is done off market, and we're getting into some territories where we need to talk about the nuances, but there are certain circumstances where a transaction can take place off market. The buyer and seller are neighbors. They know each other super well. They ask an agent to step in to be a transaction broker to put the paperwork together. They've already finalized the deal. No negotiations, put the contract together for me. In the event that something like that happens, you can add that listing as comp data, which then tells the MLS and other agents, other members of the MLS, what that home sold for comp data for exactly that purpose. So I hope I explained that correctly. Anything you guys would add to that?
Yeah. And it's really valuable for appraisers and just us real estate brokers when we're trying to put a home on the market. If we see something that was maybe sold off market, that may help us in generating our data. For sale by owner might be another really good example is if there's a FSBO and you're the buyer's agent to enter that property as a comp so that you can tell the rest of the MLS what your buyer purchased that home for. That's going to help appraisals as well.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah. Great question. All right. I think we're moving on.
Yeah. The last comment is call RE Colorado if you have any questions on this stuff. Again, this is RE Colorado. They will explain these fine lines to you. No problem. But we're going to move it along. Maybe we'll do a Monday morning talk on that. We've got to keep the schedule moving forward. And the next topic here, we've got a market stats presentation by Stacy Schuster.
Yeah, so I figured we'd just do kind of a bird's eye view. The May data just came out last Friday. So again, where is this data and what counties are we talking about? So when I start rattling off some numbers on these slides, we're looking at Douglas, Elbert, Arapahoe, Adams, Denver, Boulder, Broomfield, Gilpin, Clear Creek, and Park counties. So a pretty comprehensive area of data. So how did the numbers round out? We got more listings. Yay. So active listings end of month for May, 3,652. That's almost a 14% increase over April and a 76% increase over May of last year.
Yeah, we remember just back in January, February, we had 1,000 listings.
Yeah. How does this shape up for previous Mays? Typically in May, on average, we have 15,000 listings. May, June, and July are months that our listing inventory tends to have more seasonality. Oftentimes people will put their homes on the market in the spring. A few will straggle more into that late spring and summer, and we'll start to see the buyer need slow down a little bit. So we always expect May and June to be slightly higher inventory months. So this is not abnormal whatsoever. Our closed homes still went up as well. So we were at about 5,400 closed sales, and this is residential, attached and detached. So our condos, townhomes, single family, all included. Year over year, we're down a little bit, about 4.5%. So sales have gotten just a little bit sluggish, which you guys are probably feeling out there in the market. Average closed price $714,000. Average median price, $615,000. Both those numbers were down. This is about the first time in 4 months, I believe, that we've actually seen prices not go up, actually revert back a little bit. Nothing to be alarmed with quite yet. Days on market average is 9. So in the next slide, we're actually going to take a look at a graph that kind of outlines these a little bit better. All I'm going to have you focus on is the yellow portion of the graph. So that's our active listings. And so you saw we were kind of struggling in December and January. January really hit rock bottom with our active listings, only having 1,184 listings at the end of the month. We've been slowly clawing our way back and finally hit May, having one of the higher inventory months we've had since last October. So it's really good to see. That allows us to actually sell more homes. When you have more product, you can sell more properties. I think the caveat to this is as people are listing and buyers maybe aren't submitting offers in the first weekend, we're starting to see nationally 1 out of every 5 homes having a price reduction.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So be mindful that if you are a listing agent and you're putting a home on the market, it likely will not sell in the first weekend. If you are a buyer's agent, and you go out and look at a home on the first weekend and your buyers like it, but maybe they're willing to wait to see what happens, we're seeing a lot of negotiations taking place the second weekend that the home is on the market. Under asking price, no appraisal gaps, inspection contingencies. Sellers are starting to feel like they're grasping for offers. And so if you're patient, you can actually start negotiating on some of these properties. So be careful depending on what side you're on. If you're a listing agent the 4th day, I don't think you need a price reduction unless you hit the market really, really aggressively and you may have been overpriced as it was. So moving on, we're going to take a look at a slide. I just circled a couple things. This is our median closed price. So for April compared to May, just kind of showing or reflecting that prices did take a little bit of a dip. Again, nothing to be alarmed with. It's just our inventory versus our demand isn't quite where it was several months ago. So we finally are starting to see that adjustment period, which we need. On the next slide, we're going to look at our average close price. Just so that you know, an average home in Denver, single family, now costs $805,000.
That is crazy.
And an average attached family, so your duplexes, your townhomes, your condos, $494,000.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Yeah,
that's really wild.
So, I mean, if you look at May 2021, which is the far left-hand side of the slide, we were at $699,000 for a single family home. That's a $100,000 difference.
Yeah.
So,
Man.
For the same home.
For the exact same home.
For the same home.
And this isn't factoring in interest rates or anything like that. So on the next slide, I've actually blocked out a lot of the numbers because your eyes start to go a little bit wonky. When you look at this, what I really wanted to show you is how our listing to close price ratio has changed. So we've been on an upward incline as far as over asking price offers. We were at 100%, then 101, 102, 104. Last month, we hit 106.8. Nearly all offers were 107% over asking price. We saw that pull back a little bit last month, which was really nice. Nothing significant. We're talking 105% to still get you into the house that you want as a buyer. But that's shifting, and I think we're going to continue to see that shift. So in all categories, residential, detached, and attached, we did see that number pull back a little bit. So I think that's good news for buyers. And then in the next slide, this was the final one, and this was just kind of a fun little thing that I noticed. I'm not sure where you find a home in Denver. Maybe this is Gilpin County or Park County or Elbert. Right. I don't know. But in the $100,000 to $199,000 price range, we suddenly have 12 months of inventory. That's a huge swing. That is definitely a buyer's market. And we have seen some of these price points shifting a little bit. Most of them are still under a half of a month of inventory, but we're starting to see some changes there. But if you have a buyer that's looking for something under $200,000, they've got a lot of options. So
I'm guessing that they don't have a lot of options. They're just not that excited about what's out there. I mean, if you're only selling one in a month, that's because these are pretty rough and they probably don't finance. And that's why they're sitting and unable to sell, because they're just not, the value isn't there.
But yeah, that was a staggering stat
interesting.
to see a year of inventory in that price range. So that's it for the slides. I do have a couple of just six fun little market items that I found. So the first one is, in a recent study, Colorado has been noted as the third lowest for property taxes in the country. So we've got some high prices, but our taxes are reasonable. So that's good. So that was kind of a fun little market finding. People are staying in their homes longer now. So I don't know if you've noticed that with your past clients. In surveys from 1985 to 2007, people typically transitioned every 5 to 7 years. Since 2008 to 2022, people are now staying in their homes 11 to 13 years.
Wow, that's a huge change.
So the other interesting fact that I had, we've already talked about this, purchasing a home is now 55% more expensive than it was this time a year ago. Wages have gone up 6%, which has helped a tiny bit, but inflation has gone up 8.5%, which has wiped out wages, which makes it that much tougher to get into a home. New home inventory, that's something you're going to want to keep an eye on. We now have between 6 and 9 months of new construction inventory. Keep in mind, the word inventory doesn't mean that the home's actually been built. It just means that there's lots available to build on. And we're going to start to see prices fluctuate with new construction because the cost of goods and construction costs have gone up 5% since the beginning of the year, 20% since last year this time, and 37% compared to pre-pandemic. But keep an eye on new construction, because the 3 top construction builders, new home construction builders in the metro area, have 150% more vacant land that they've bought up in the last 2 to 3 years than they did pre-pandemic. So they're going to start releasing more of that product. And the last thing is start watching for builder incentives to come back, because now that they do have more product, they're going to start, probably, fingers crossed, upping buyer incentives and realtor commissions.
So they'll start paying us again. They'll start loving us again.
Yep, exactly. Now that they have 9 months of inventory, they're going to have to start roping us in to show their properties again. So those are my fun facts.
Those are great, Stacy. And I was going to quickly say, maybe we can get a builder in on one of our upcoming sales meetings. Maybe we get Brandon Burgess just to check in, see how things are going.
Yeah, that would be great.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you for that, Stacy. And I think moving right along brings us to foundational technology tips. So this topic is kind of running parallel with the upcoming launch of KVCore. I figured we should run through some foundational technology tips, kind of the basics that every single agent should have set up tech-wise, so that they can take full advantage of everything that happens when KVCore is released. So we've got 4 tips that I'm going to walk you through. Some of them may seem basic, but there are enough agents, there's a big enough percentage of people who aren't doing some of these things that I incorporated it into this presentation. And the very first one, tech tip number 1, create a custom domain name for your business. And you can purchase those domains through GoDaddy.com. So what's a domain name? We'll start there. A domain name is a custom web address for your business. And I quickly grabbed some examples from our agent profile, our agent roster. EileenKitcoProperties.com, theaccentteam.com. That's Sandra Shaler. anhomesearch.com, CarterColoradoHomes.com. The reason creating a domain name is so important, I've got 3 bullets here. Number 1, you get to establish your own branding. And that is such a big part of who we are and why this business model here at Equity is so important, because we allow you to brand yourselves however you guys want to brand yourselves. So by coming up with a catchy domain name, That's your branding. That's your image. That's your business. You're in control of that. The other reason, obviously, it's streamlined for marketing materials. A URL like Eileen Kitco Properties or CarterColoradoHomes.com, it just looks so classy on your business cards and your flyers to have that additional branding. And the third overview, the most important piece in my mind, websites change all the time, but your domain name stays the same. And what I mean by that, look at our current website situation. We've got pro agent websites for you guys currently. That's your agent website, but we'll soon be switching to KVCore. So you'll get an entirely new website. And so that means you've got paul.weininger.equityco search. That's the website for pro agent website. We don't want to look at that. We want to look at paultherealtor.com instead. So anytime you change websites, the beauty of a domain, you can point any website to your domain. And I hope I'm explaining that correctly, but that means you can point any website if you change web providers, or maybe you branch out from KVCore and you use another provider, your domain will always be the same. So create a domain if you haven't done that. That should be a foundational basic that every agent has, a domain. But when I look at our list, there's a handful of people, a big portion, that don't have custom domains.
Hey, Paul, can I piggyback on that?
Of course, absolutely.
And I'm thinking the people that don't have a domain are some that are like, you know what, I really don't do much on my website. I do all my business by referral. I really don't care about my website. That's not that exciting. It's free, great. And all I have to say to those people, you do business by referral, which is awesome. But everyone you know knows more than one agent, and people will Google you. Even your family members will Google you. And although you might not use your website to lead generate and SEO and all that, you still want your website to look sharp and be professional and have your domain name, because your friends, family members, and the person that you're trying to work with and pick up as a client will Google you, and you'll want that website to come up with your domain name. You want to be on Facebook, LinkedIn, and all of those other places. So take the extra time, go get a good domain name, even though that might not be your number one business producing technique, having websites. Trust me, people are Googling you, and you want that site to come up, and you don't want it to come up with CO search dot blah, blah, blah. You want it to come up with Carter, Colorado Homes. Love it. Eileen Kitco Properties. Love it. Those sound great. We love the accentteam.com.
Yeah.
Sandra. So yeah, good stuff.
No, great points, Todd. And I do want to show what GoDaddy.com looks like, because maybe you feel intimidated by this, and that's why you don't have domains. Look how easy this is. You visit GoDaddy.com. We'll type in let's sell some homes.com. Search domain. I can purchase that domain for 1 cent for the first 2 years with a 2-year registration. Oh, and look, I can even add email service, paul@letssellsomehomes.com. That's how easy it is. So if you're an agent who doesn't have a domain name, take some time today to go register one. And it's just fun. This is the fun stuff that you get to build behind the scenes. So
what are the odds that domain name is not available tomorrow? One of you is going to go, I want that.
That's actually a really good one.
That is a
Paul.
good one.
I think you should pay the penny and buy it.
Maybe I'll start a side business. I think I suggested Carter, Colorado Homes to Mike Carter too. Hey, Mike. I'm just kidding. But yeah, go have some fun with it. Create a brand that is your own. And Todd, you brought up great points, and this presentation is going to snowball because what you just said about your online image is everything. So my next tip, create a Google My Business profile. And this is a detailed one. I mean, there are 2-hour classes on Google My Business, but the basic thing that I want you to walk away with, create a profile on Google and you'll show up in Google searches. If people just type in Greenwood Village real estate agents, you might pop up in the search if you create a Google My Business page. More Google searches equal better SEO, search engine optimization, for your website. Google reviews, that's another benefit, is you can set up reviews, and when people Google you, they'll see your client surveys, the satisfaction reviews that you've been getting. And to end with a stat on this one, an average of 3.5 billion Google searches are made each day. I actually checked that number, and it's more like 8 billion now. So this was an outdated stat. 8 billion searches on Google per day. 40.
Isn't
that insane? I don't know if it's COVID. People were stuck inside. They're curious, just looking at different things. 46% of those searches are for businesses. So this is huge. And you don't have to spend 4 hours back here. I want to quickly Google Eileen Kitco. I did some research. Who's using a Google My Business page? And there's a handful. Eileen Kitco just happens to have a perfect setup. You'll see we have her Google My Business profile set up. So when I Google her, that's her Google profile. It shows her hours of operation. You can do all kinds of things like custom photos. How long will it take to sell my house? That's kind of an advanced Google business feature. But the idea here is that you want as many fishing poles. And on the next slide, I use the example of a fishing net. That's how you want to look at the internet lead generation strategies. You want a giant net that leads people to your website, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram. We're going to talk about that in a second. By having a Google business profile, there's a link right there to your website. And look, Eileen, the first hit for Eileen Kitco is her website, eileenkitcoproperties.com. I'm not going to teach you how to set up a Google My Business profile because that's pretty involved, but I've included a video right here that walks you step by step on how to get that done. So you'll have that.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I've Googled a realtor and you can't find them anywhere.
It's important. And I know a lot of you do this, but for those who don't, these should be, in my opinion, standard things that you have set up behind the scenes.
Agreed. Yeah. These are foundational.
Yep. Foundational.
Need them.
Hey, we've got a quick question here, Paul.
Oh, yeah. Fire away.
Karen Beisner says, can you discuss guidelines of what can't be in a domain name?
Yeah. And I'm going to have to.
I'm guessing.
Go ahead, Todd.
I'm guessing that she's wondering whether or not you can use the term realtor in your domain name.
Mm-hmm.
And if you Google that, which I did, you'll find out quickly that you can use it along with your name, toddschusterrealtor.com. I can do that, but I can't do #1realtor.com. It has to be associated with your name or your company firm, but not in some sort of I'm the best realtor.com. Can't do that. So Google realtor.com usage. You don't have to do hyphens. You can't put in the trademark. That's okay with realtors to do that. Outside of that, I don't believe there's anything specific to even DORA.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, when it comes to advertising, you can't say real estate and make your team or business sound like it's separate from equity real estate. You can't say Eileen Kitco Real Estate as her logo, as her brand, or Stacy Schuster Realty. But in your domain name, you can use those things
You can
because
use real estate properties.
that helps for
realtor.
SEO and searches and things like that. But you cannot be using that as marketing branding. But in domain name, you can. So there's really nothing out there that you can't do other than incorrectly use realtor, because that is trademarked and they do allow you to do certain things with that. Hopefully that answers
So
your
that was
question.
a great question, because I'm sure that's what her question stemmed around is, can I say company, realty, real estate in that domain name? Because that's strictly against advertising rules if you're using that as a team name and not referencing your brokerage firm. So
Domain. Yes, Eileen. Real estate, realty, those can be used in domain names. That has not been against Dora, because that was for, you can't be advertising that as your brand, but for domain names to capture SEO and things like that, to be able to use our industry, real estate, you can do that.
Many of us have chosen to dance around that. Like we have Schuster Properties
KVCore Properties.
Yeah, rather than Schuster Real Estate or Schuster Realty, because we just don't want to be on that fine line. But it is doable.
But you can't do Eileen KVCore Realty. Eileen KVCore Realty.com domain name, but not branding. Two different things.
Yeah. Good.
And
it is interesting.
And I'll supplement, we have Commission Rule E8, I believe. That's where it covers advertising guidelines. So we'll throw that out as you consider your marketing, so you can see what you can and can't do on paper there. Thank you for that. That was a really good question.
And then Norvin Massey says you can't add the word "the" in front of realtor. So if you go to NAR, there is a trademark and logo usage on the internet. You can read all 5 of their rules there and make sure you're doing that correctly.
But yeah,
Perfect.
Thanks for that, Norvin.
Yeah, trademark. Yeah, I like that. Trademark versus commission rules. Good topics there. All right, well, we got to keep it moving. So this one's basic. I'm going to quickly go through it. Tech tip number 3, make sure your social platforms include a link to your website and all of your other social platforms. That seems pretty basic, but to piggyback off what Todd said, what's the first thing you do when you find out a friend just got into real estate? You go to their Facebook profile and you play around, see what they're linking you to. And that's what we're getting at here. Make sure everything is a fishing net. You want every social platform, every website, everything should be connected. To quickly highlight, stronger web presence equals better lead capture. Again, you're driving more people to your website. And that example, you're using a fishing net instead of a couple fishing poles. If I go to Instagram and I don't see any other social media links or your website, well, I'm going to lose interest and not click on any other links. But if everything's right there, all laid out for me, nice and convenient, then I'm going to click around and play on those. People explore your social platforms more than you might think. And the goal is to drive them to your website. That's where you capture the leads and can actually make impressions on them. And, that's when we're getting into KVCore territory. So I don't think we need to spend much more time on that one. Update your profiles. And the last one, this one's kind of a segue, a different direction. Tech tip number 4, incorporate QR codes on physical marketing materials. And this is free using Google Chrome. I wanted to highlight this because we just used one personally for equity marketing. And the benefit, what is a QR code? A QR code is a little bar that you can scan with a smartphone camera, and it directly links them to a certain website. And so the benefits, you can direct consumers to any website, blog post, or page in seconds. I'll give you an example here in a minute. Great for linking consumers to detailed information that won't fit on your flyer or on your business card. And it kind of spruces up the physical marketing materials. Physical marketing materials are sadly kind of becoming a thing of the past. And by incorporating a QR code, you're driving people to a specific site, maybe to your website. So as an example, we created this flyer for Armbrust Real Estate Institute. And you can see we've got our QR code. Scan the QR code with your camera for answers to Armbrust's brokerage interview questions. There's probably 35 questions that we answered in detail. And I, of course, can't fit those answers on this flyer that I left at the school. So if you're if you have your phone available, pull up your camera and point it at that QR code, and it'll direct you to my blog post about Armbrust brokerage interview questions. So this would be a perfect thing for you to do maybe on a listing flyer. Maybe you do a QR code for a blog post about why you are the right realtor to hire for this specific listing, or for this, you see what I'm getting at? Why people should work with you. So they're looking at your listing. Go ahead, Todd. I'm sorry.
No, I like it. Good. I mean,
you can do so much with this. You could link to amenities in a subdivision on a listing flyer and additional photos. You can do so much with it.
Yeah. And again, yeah, you're directing people somewhere specific where they can read up on you. And to
It's
be
kind of
thorough.
funny that
Oh, go ahead.
QR codes have been around a long time, and then they kind of fell out of favor
And then
until the pandemic with menus and drink menus, and people are starting to go, oh, this is kind of handy. And I think they're back, and I think there's a lot of fun ways that you could use this. And I want to see what some people end up doing, because I know someone's on this call right now going, ooh, I like that idea, and they're going to get creative and do something. So when you do that, share it with us. Let us see what you did.
Yeah. And briefly, I want to show you again, it's not overwhelming. This is how easy it is. Pull up Google Chrome, go to the website you want to do a QR code for. So for example, my KVCore website, that's where I want to send to people. You click this, share this page, and there's a button right there, create QR code. Boom.
No way.
We don't even know this
I didn't even know that. That was awesome.
Happy to, I figured I didn't know this a couple of weeks ago. So if you point your camera right now at that QR code, you can actually do this while we're on screen. It'll take you to my KVCore website. So.
Very cool tech tip.
Diane Levy just says, even link a video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Link a video, anything you want. So that concludes our tech tips, things that I wanted to put on your radar for the upcoming KVCore platform launching on June 28th. Any additional info there, guys? Anything else you want to add?
I think that was good, Paul.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But really, people need to start kind of gathering some stuff together, because this KVCore, you can put so much social information into your website that then it's going to do the advertising, marketing, lead gen. But if you don't have the basics, it's not going to do a lot for you. I mean, you got to put stuff in, so start getting those accounts and setting those up, and, one by one, make your list.
Yeah. And I was hoping that we'd have time to showcase a couple things with KVCore, but I will make a separate video since we're kind of running short on time here. And
we got lots of classes coming.
Yeah, I think the big thing that I wanted to talk about, mark your calendars for the KVCore launch. We actually have information for what these classes are going to dive into now. So the next class for KVCore, Tuesday, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I think the big thing I'll say, the previous showcases moved very quickly. There was an instructor that went 1,000,000 miles a minute. And this course here, The Path of a Lead in KVCore, will be taught by our corporate office. They'll slow it down and show you some of these lead generation features. So mark your calendar. And then, of course, we've got.
If I can jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd.
Sorry to interrupt you. So yeah, if anyone attended those, a super nice gentleman who does that, he's actually the founder of KVCore. He's actually the engineer.
Wow.
He's the computer guru. He loves what he's created. He's got a lot of energy, but he's not an instructor. And so far, these have not been instructional. He's been trying to give overviews, and yeah, they haven't been all that informative, I don't think. They've kind of high level, whatever. Jared would do a nice job leading the Path of a Lead, but the rest are being taught by their actual instructors. So agent orientation, 1, 2, 3, 4, getting started, all these will be actual instructors from KVCore. This is what they do. They teach. So if you watch the ones before and like, I don't know if that was really the kind of promo or guy I want. He's just excited.
Yeah.
He just
another chance.
Yeah. The upcoming classes will be on spot. And then Paul and I are going to be making some as well, just to kind of drill down even more.
Yeah. And watch your inbox. We're sending about 1 or 2 emails per week highlighting a KVCore feature, and there's links to the registration for each of these classes. So you'll see those each week. All right, guys. I think the only other piece before we get into Power Pros, no sales meeting in July. As usual, you guys are traveling during the summer. Just wanted to make you aware. Enjoy your summer. We'll still be working and plugging away on videos and KVCore stuff, but just no sales meeting. And if you're in the area, swing by and come see me at the DTC office and check your mail. It's overflowing from 2 years worth, 2 years of not checking mail. So text me, call me. I'll tell you if you've got mail.
That's awesome.
So Diane, when KVCore launches on the 28th, you guys will be getting a direct email with links to get your access code into KVCore, and I'll probably also have it on Elevate. I think you'll be able to click on a button on Elevate when it launches with your passcode, and then you can also download the app. So there's the web-based version and the app version, and that will all happen on the 28th. You don't have to do anything. We'll be sending it to you.
That is exactly what the orientation class will cover too, is how to access your profiles. So, and there's 2 times, 11:30 and 3 p.m.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Well, before we get you out of here, we want to acknowledge our May 2022 Power Professionals. Great month. And there's some high numbers up here. And as you may have guessed, or I know Stephanie was watching these transactions closely, she tried to squeeze these in to make the numbers. With the most transactions award, we've got Stephanie Fellhauer with 6 transactions. Great job, Stephanie. And she almost had top sales agent for the sales volume as well, but Mark Baker took that award with 4.5 million in sales volume between 5 transactions. Great job, Mark and Stephanie. You guys are crushing it. And then from there, I mean, these numbers are so impressive. We don't want those 2 awards to discredit all the hard work everybody else is making, of course. Justin Savoy, 4 transactions. Nice job. Anna Navalani, 4 transactions. Sandra Shaler, 3 transactions. Amy Randolph, 3 transactions. Sarah Clausen, 3 transactions. Michael Carter, 3 transactions. Casey Ophog, 3 transactions. Karen Hermelink, 3 transactions. Gary Cummings, 2 transactions. The remainder have 2 transactions from here on out. Judy Simpson, Mary Deckard, Wendy Brunner, Caitlin Tran, Karina Podlesny, Philip Candela, and I'm so happy to see this next name, Angela Yee, a Buffini graduate. She just graduated Buffini a couple months ago. First time Power Pro. Good job. Aaron Weinzapfel. Emily Carlos, another Buffini graduate who was in the class with Angela Yee. Good job. And then, of course, Larry Clark. So a really great month of closings. Congratulations to everybody and all your efforts. You're doing a great job out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to give a shout out to Mark, not for his amazing business, but Mark just completed a half Ironman up in Vancouver, Canada. So congratulations, Mark, for
not only crushing it in business, but crushing it in professional,
yeah, that's fun.
Personal and life.
Anyone else doing marathons or Ironmans or walking the Grand Canyon, let us know. I mean, there's several of you that we talk to a lot because obviously Stacy and I are into the, endurance sports. So if you're doing something really fun too, let us know. Keep us involved. I mean, Karina has been in Moab having a wonderful time mountain biking. And Moab's an amazing place for mountain biking. And I know that several of you guys do mountain biking too. And I see people riding motorcycles and racing cars. And you guys do
rock climbing
stuff.
Yeah.
Rock climbing. Todd Smith has been to some beautiful places. He was City of Rocks not long ago, which is amazing. I've been there years ago. So yeah, fun stuff exciting. You guys are doing. So hopefully that's what you're going to be doing in July. And we're not doing sales meetings because we want to go do something too. I don't know what, but we'll do something.
Do something.
Well, I think, that was a great meeting, content packed. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Yeah. And we'll be here. Call us if you need us. And of course, we don't have time, new and coming soon listings, post in the Facebook group. Let us know. You guys know the drill with that. Anything we need to be aware of, drop it in the comments section, and we're here to help. Make
sure you're following Clear Cooperation when you're posting your coming soon.
Yes.
In the comment section below, guys.
Good call. All right, everybody. Have a great day.
All right.
Have a great rest of your week.
See y'all.
We'll see you later. Take care.